morning. How is everyone today? We're broadcasting the Harry Jackson Show here from downtown Beltsville, Maryland. We got an exciting Faith and Family Friday show for you today. We're going to be talking about building the family in 2014. Our special guest, the second segment of our show, will be Sheila Weber. And she is promoting the National Marriage Week in February. And we're going to be talking with her February 7th through the 14th every year. And we need to promote our families. We're going to be talking to you now today. And we hope everyone is excited about the upcoming weekend. It is Friday, everybody. And this is a day that we should be excited. We've made it through the work week. We're looking at news article number 1 from the USA Today. The weekend, up to 48,000. That's 48,000 veterans, Afghan and Iraq vets, are homeless in our city streets. We're talking about that news article. Secondly, we'll be talking about Rejected. The judge shoots down Detroit's $165 million plan, and the courts are denying that. Thirdly, Target has been attacked. As you know, in the news that they had a scam. 40 million people were affected by their credit card, but the number is climbing into the millions as part of a broader scam plan. And then fourthly, Senator Tom Coburn, a great senator, is stepping down. He's battling health issues, and he'll be exiting Congress at the end of this year. So first, we're going to talk about the 48,000 Afghan and Iraq vets that are homeless. And you know, our men and women, they fight on the front lines for us, and now they're out panhandling in the streets. And 48,000, thank God the Department of Veterans Affairs has decided to give out over $300 million now to 300 community groups in order to help our homeless vets find shelter. We're talking about they have got no coat, they have no shoes, they have no heat, no bathroom. They've got nothing, and they're fighting post-traumatic stress disorders. They come home, their families may have been in an adulterous affair. All the money they were sending home, now the family is no longer there. The wife is not waiting for him or her, and now they are in distress and homeless. So we hear Bishop Jackson is on the line.
Good morning, David. How are you?
I am doing fabulous. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Welcome back from Israel, and everybody is going to need to hear about these wonderful moments that you took in the Holy Land and the pilgrimage. But as you were talking about the veterans, I think as we opened the show this morning, I think one of the underlying problems there is the mental health conundrum that also belies this homelessness issue. So you have an issue not only of aid or financial assistance making its way down to the local level. Seems to me that the screening of these veterans before they release is really important. If we have time, I'll talk to you about a trip I took through Germany last year, and I went to one of the places where people would come when they were coming out of Iraq and out of Afghanistan to be evaluated by the military medical doctors, and there seemed to be more emphasis on the physical condition of those exiting the war zone warriors than it was upon the emotional. So I'll turn it back to you there in that comment.
Exactly. And so because they have gone through such traumatic stress, even at young ages, and now they come home hopefully to waiting arms of family and friends, they're not there to help them, at least for 48,000 of these vets. And they're saying what happened in the combat zones that they were deployed multiple times over
Yep.
2 different wars, and many of these veterans have never faced any sort of conflict that they can endure at this level, and so they've never registered the mental impact that they have experienced.
Well, also the Wounded Warrior Project, many of us have seen that set of commercials on TV. One of the testimonies from folk who appear in that commercial is, hey, the hidden scars are some of the worst. And so I think that there's a reason why we don't see the psychological strains and stresses. There can be a combination of physical disability and emotional disability. And I think all of us are heightening our awareness. This is an area where, David, in the faith communities, there's the Faith and Family Pride Day, many of our lay counselors need to be given some additional training so that we can actually take a look at how people are faring in their reentry into the nation. And this is going to be very important, I believe, over the next decade.
Absolutely. This is something that we weren't ready for, and we need to be retrained. We'll go to the second article. Deals with the court has denied Detroit their proposed debt agreement. Doesn't sound like the city has learned its lesson. They have proposed $165 million of settlement to pay off 2 different banks, but a judge said, no way, I'm not allowing you. It's way too much money. They are in debt by the tune of $18 billion. $18 billion is the total amount the municipal debt Detroit has calculated to owe, and it could rise. And so a lot of this deals with pension debts for the men and women who've worked in the city government, and they're expecting their pensions. There's at least over $1 billion, almost $1.5 billion that these government workers are expecting to get, and they won't be seeing that at the same level they expected that. So just too much money, a judge says.
But, Dave, one of the challenges here is that Detroit is in a pickle now. And many of our listeners may be in that same kind of place with personal debt and or organizational, institutional debt. And then we have to try to renegotiate a loan. And this is essentially what we're doing, except that the government has no real options. It can't come up with the money itself for this municipality. And so I get the fact that the loan route may not be the route that we want to go. I also get the fact that debt consolidation, making payment arrangements is, in fact, what we have to do if we're in this predicament. So I think Detroit has been going down for a long time. I think that they are having to come to grips and really face the music now. But I would think debt modification and this particular approach of a bankruptcy that could be underlined with a certain amount of debt could be part and parcel of what the most rational CPA would give them. The issue, though, is the issue of debt going to be payable over time? Is it realistic that we can come back from this precipice of bondage and live again? David, back to you.
All right. Excellent points. We're going to deal with the third article here today with our last remaining moments. Target, as we know, had been hit by a scam. 40 million people with credit card debt accounts. It has moved up to 70 million customers, and now because of Neiman Marcus, it has moved from 40 million up to 110 million customers. And we just have 5 minutes left in this segment. And so we even have our own engineer here who would use his Target card. And now you can go to McDonald's or somewhere and use somebody else's credit just to get an Egg McMuffin. Woo! So there's 110 million customers out there right now that are maybe in trouble. And all Neiman Marcus can say is we're not going to disclose how many customers have been affected, but we really regret this has happened to you. So,
Yeah,
Bishop,
David, I think this is a real challenge for us. I have a Neiman card myself, and I lovingly want to call Neiman the company of needless markups. And it is amazing how much the credit security situation can affect our everyday life. And we can lose a lot of money. And I think this is one of the dangers of our current cyber environment.
And that it's highly possible for us to be in an environment in which we can be hacked into as a country, and our records messed up, finances transferred. So take this personal problem, and for Neiman Marcus and Target, ironically, both ends of the economic spectrum, the very economical to the very extravagant. And imagine if these were government accounts and or private investment accounts, how much damage could be done with their nation. So something needs to be done to address these kinds of problems, don't you think?
Right, to protect the consumer, because all of us use our credit cards on everything we use. Do we have to go back to cash now as opposed to credit cards?
Not me. I've been told that our producer has money in her mattress that is working quite well for her. But cash and carry, it may be the way to go. I don't know.
Woo, our last moments here, we have Senator Tom Coburn will be exiting this current session of Congress. He plans to finish out this year. We certainly have to pray and love this man. He is battling prostate cancer. He began to suffer this back in 2011, and he was known as Dr. No. He's delivered thousands of babies and fought against the dangers of STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. A great man for most of 20 years. He has represented special moral, the high ground thoughts of conservatives. And so our prayers, our love are with this great man.
Yes, we do need to pray for Senator Tom Coburn. And he has been a watchman on the wall in a morally, fiscally, and socially out of control environment here in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill. And so we may come back and actually have more words about Mr. Coburn after the break. Let me remind everyone, David, that Harry Jackson's book, this gentleman I know very well, Harry Jackson Jr., that is actually who I am, his book, You Were Born for More, is available on Amazon in an e-book format and on several other websites. This week, going into, I think it's just Monday, Tuesday next week, for only $1.99, several books by our publishers have been put forth as part of a promotion. And you've heard about the book. You may have seen us on CBN, TBN, Daystar, the James Robinson Life Today show, and a number of other things. Reach out to us. And I do want to remind us, we sent out a tweet that we were going to be on this morning on the Roland Martin show in just a few minutes live. And due to unforeseen circumstances, we've had to postpone that appearance. So we're going to retweet. And it's going to be a clash of the Titans when we get out there. And Roland Martin has a great show on TV One. And this is an opportunity for us to present our views in a predominantly black-oriented news environment that I hope will begin to bring some balance and food for thought. And that's really what we want in these kinds of appearances, is just to get an opportunity for our opinions to be heard. David.
All right, you'll be right back in just a moment. We'll be talking to Sheila Weber, dealing with the National Marriage Week. See you in a moment.
With today's Faith to Action commentary, here's Janet Porter.
Secretary of State John Kerry is deeply concerned about Nigeria. Just what is he concerned about? Is it the Christians who were violently murdered? The church attacks that killed more than 150 people during worship services? The Christians who were burned alive by Muslims? No, he's deeply concerned about Nigeria's enactment of the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act. Kerry stated, quote, "No one should face violence or discrimination for who they are or who they love. Yet Christians are facing violence and discrimination and death every day because they love Jesus." Why isn't John Kerry deeply concerned about that? Why is our administration silent about it? Ask your congressman when you call him at 202-224-3121.
Visit f2a.org for more commentaries and action steps, along with news, links, and much more for your state. Go to f2a.org.
My name's Garrett, and a few years ago, I went through one of those life-shattering events as I watched my marriage crumble and I became a statistic of divorce. Now, there were some pretty dark days. How could a Christian guy get divorced? I mean, I was the guy who told others how faithful God was, and then all of a sudden, my shortcomings were made public, and there I was, a statistic. Then a couple of great guys reminded me of what God's Word says about a bunch of men and women who goofed up, messed up, and even went through rough stuff like divorce. Isn't that just like God to say, hey, I love you anyway, even if you are divorced? Well, today I still don't have it all together, but I do know that Jesus has changed me, restored me, and I'm becoming the dad and the new husband that He wants me to be. If you're there today and you don't think there's any hope, think again. Jesus is ready to spend some time with you on the road to restoration. You can meet Him right now. Just call 888-NEED-HIM or chat with us live at needhim.org.
The Lord desires so much for us to know Him, for our hearts to connect with His, and for us to long for fellowship with Him. But in many cases, it seems that the only time we're inspired to pray is when something awful happens to us. In my own relationships, I don't want to be friends with you if I can't talk to you or spend time with you. Failing to do so does not put you in a position to know me. Understanding that, how much more would the one who created us want to know us? I can only imagine how it must grieve the Lord's heart when we only communicate with Him during a crisis. I don't know about you, but I'm really glad that God loves us even when we treat Him otherwise, always receiving us even when He hasn't heard from us since the last issue. Endeavor today to change that. Let's talk to God and build that intimate relationship that we both can be proud of. With a heart for the urban family, I'm today's urban woman, Tony Johnson. Connect with us at urbanfamilytalk.com.
Welcome back to the Harry Jackson Show. We're broadcasting live here in Beltsville, Maryland, this beautiful Faith and Family Friday. And during this segment of the program, we have a special guest with us, Sheila Weber. She's Executive Director of the National Marriage Week that's coming up fairly soon here, doing Valentine's Week, February 7th through the 14th. And we welcome her back to the show. How are you this morning, Sheila?
I'm doing just great. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being with us, and Bishop Jackson here today on his show. We're so excited that you've come to help us understand a little bit more about the importance of marriage and regaining ground in building our families up. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what National Marriage Week means to us as believers and for America.
I sure will. We are just 1 month away from Event Week, which is February 7th to the 14th. And National Marriage Week is a time to elevate marriage, about the importance of it for both individuals, especially for children, and for the nation as a whole, because marriage lifts women and children out of poverty, and it is the best situation for children to be raised with both of their parents. It gives them far more advantages. They do better in school, have less trouble with the law, less teen pregnancy, less drug addiction. So We're in a campaign to increase marriage education all across America. We have the only online national marriage calendar, so people can go to nationalmarriageweekusa.org and click in their state on the calendar and find a place where they can take a class or get resources near where they live. We want to encourage people to go have more marriage education, more relationship education, because we are raising the next generation without the modeling of marriage, and so sometimes we need that education ourselves, and we need to be sharing it with our children.
Well, tell us a little bit about what it means that marriage is the unsung anti-poverty program. How does that impact poverty?
Right. Well, there's a lot of conversation today about in the political world about the economic divide, that there's this growing gap of income inequality. But what we're really finding is that nobody is talking about the loss of marriage and the decline of marriage as a contributor to that growing economic divide. We're seeing actually more people in the middle class actually veering into the lower class, or we're seeing people in the lower class not being able to move up to the middle class because single motherhood is the largest source of poverty among women and children. And we want to get the message out that this is an alarming situation. We need to rethink the patterns that we're creating. One new alarming statistic that of women under the age of 30 today, 53% of them are now having their babies outside of marriage. That did not used to be the case. In fact, back in 1962, less than 5% of all U.S. babies were born outside of marriage. Sometimes we're not talking about when this is an unexpected situation and there's very little you can do about it. Sometimes this is within a person's realm of choice. We're very pro-life. I'm just talking about people who kind of see themselves in a new family structure, and we'd like to have people have more success in marriage. Really gives you stability. Married couples have more financial stability, more economic stability, and we want people to sort of revalue it because the research shows that marriage actually makes people happier and live longer lives and have healthier lives.
Well, those are great comments. Harry Jackson here. Sheila, we have a big event happening in the Washington, D.C. area with multiple churches, and it will be a simple Valentine's Day dinner and dance, and some churches and some individuals may have problems with dance and all of that. We come from different religious backgrounds, but it's going to be popular for us, and we're actually going to allow people who are in the courtship phases to come to the event. In some ways, it's a way to chaperone adults, as well as
excellent.
It is.
Yeah, that is exactly what we want to be stirring up all across the United States. So that celebration of, even in the courtship phase, people need to be encouraged toward their commitments to each other. So that really sounds exciting.
Well, I think it will be, and I think what you were saying about being able to go to your website, and maybe we can just let the folks know the web address right now, and we'll repeat it at the end of the segment. How can they find out more about the things that are posted on your website, what may be happening in their region? And they're obviously free to be entrepreneurial and start up something like we're doing in Washington.
It's National Marriage Week USA.org. We add the USA because Marriage Week happens in more than 20 countries around the world. So National Marriage Week USA.org. And just for fun, just so people know, there are tips, and you can take free quizzes at the website. There's a little link with encouraging stories about people who are doing things. There's one couple that they attend a very small church in the Bronx, New York City, and only about 180 people, but 30 couples, that's 1/3 of their whole congregation, attends marriage classes twice a month. And it's just led by this wonderful couple who have other professional lives, but they care a lot about that. It's the Montalvo couple. And then there's stories of a woman in Kankakee, Illinois, who organized a big booth at the shopping mall there for free marriage counseling all week. And they got a lot of local media coverage about that last year because they found marriage counselors who offered free marriage counseling all week long in a shopping mall. So there are lots of creative things, but
Wow.
even the most simple ideas to start a home group or a Sunday school class. And we have lots of ideas at nationalmarriageweekusa.org. You can get curriculum ideas for something small or something large.
Well, one of the things that we're doing in our church now, kind of out of our discussions on the radio and retooling what we're doing, is to commission small groups and to have brunches at least once a quarter that will be for husband and wife, come in, have a time where they can be together, and there will be fun, fellowship, and some information given. Events like this, Valentine's dance, and then home groups, as you're saying, geared toward marriages at different stages, because young marriages have certain needs, other married groups have other needs, and I think all of these are prescriptive and can be reached and researched right there at your website.
Right, and
you know,
I
Sheila,
just came across a new book that I have discovered that I'm really loving, and it's easy to use. It's called Fight Less, Love More. And there's so many products and ideas like this that are sort of easy to use. But this book was written by a Harvard lawyer who was in the divorce courts, and she was watching what was happening with people, and she realized how solvable their problems were. And this book is so practical. It's Lori Puhn, P-U-H-N. Anyway, that's just one of many examples. They've got a student workbook and a leader's guide and a little DVD. But there are lots and lots of programs like that are very easy for an older, mature couple or just a really skilled couple to use in their community.
Wonderful.
You know, marriage has so many great benefits, as you've talked about it. You have greater wealth, you have more personal happiness, even better health, live longer. Who wouldn't want to be married? Don't you think marriage has had a bad identity? It's got an identity crisis.
Women still want to be married. It's the
still-
men that have gone crazy, I think.
We've run away from marriage. We don't want to be committed to one individual. So is there something that we can do to give a positive spin, a better positive campaign on this? You know, we talk about anti-smoking or healthy eating or recycling plastics. We talk about everything else, but we really don't promote family and marriage. Is there something we can do better in America to help us go through this crisis of misunderstanding?
Well, you're so right, because it's amazing that we have actually changed the American public's thinking and behavior on smaller matters, like you said, like recycling, and we've changed their habits on smoking and now healthy eating. But we have to start talking about how wonderful marriage can be. And, you know, really, when you get toward the other side of your conflicts, you can work through those conflicts. And there always are going to be some bumps in the road. But on the other side, when your children are all grown and gone, there's something very rewarding and comforting. There's comfort when you go into old age with someone who has been a witness to your life. And we need to start helping people have a vision for the fact that one day they're going to be veering into old age, and it's tremendous to have this companionship and this love and support.
So marriage is good for not only Christians, but for America.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are spending a lot of our resources on broken families. It's costing at least $112 billion a year for divorce and unwed childbearing. Actually, there's some other sources now that are saying it's close to 200 to 300 billion. So
$112 billion. Explain that. You said taxpayers are paying 112. How are we taxpayers paying $112 billion a year on divorce and unwed childbearing?
Well, there are a lot of costs for people to the government to sort of walk through these conflicts in the court system. Obviously, when women and children are impoverished, the government has to get involved with their support. really there's a strong model for a husband and a wife together building their lives, because you have those two people building a financially stable home. That's the ideal. That's what we want people to work toward, and it's so much easier to do it together than alone. So, obviously people probably do need to learn how to have more success in that. That's what our campaign is about. How can we have people find more success? And I think that the church actually needs to become the natural school for marriage. Only 28% of our nation's churches offer any sort of marriage curriculum and marriage classes. That's pretty low. We really think that most churches in this country could be providing marriage education and relationship education, even for those who are dating, even for teenagers, to sort of get them thinking differently when they're young on how to have better relationships.
That's a great point. We need education. I've watched over the years something that my wife and daughter has almost tied me to the couch to watch, and that's a Millionaire Matchmaker, totally secular program. But it's interesting how that even in the Millionaire Matchmaker setup, totally secular, there is some coaching about courtship, and she has certain inviolable rules. And it seems to me that you're right. The training that we need for everybody in the church is sometimes lacking until they say, we think we want to be married. Often they've arrived at that stage and that decision, that concept, with the raw kind of run-up or ramping up to the process, meaning they already may be in sin, or they already may have a wrong concept of what they should be dealing with, and it makes it harder to make an objective decision. So I think, Sheila, you're really giving us a great set of advice. We're going to be part of it. What else do you want to say in our closing minutes? We have about a minute and 30 seconds, perhaps, David Perlite?
Well,
Yes.
I just encourage people to do something about learning these skills. This is so exciting to me that when I look at some of the things we could be learning, tame rudeness. You can learn to short circuit an argument. You can inspire appreciation. You can be more lovable. You can control your overreactions. How to have a good fight and your bad fight habit. These are things we can learn. Those are just some chapters from this Fight, Love, Less, Love More book. But I would also say to start some marriage education if you're capable, or go get some, and go to nationalmarriageweekusa.org and look at the calendar. And also, Harry, if you would have one of your staff put your event on our national calendar, then people in your area could find us, and we're wanting to build up that calendar. We have hundreds and hundreds of activities all across the country already, and we envision that being thousands and thousands of marriage classes all across America.
Well, we will definitely follow through and do that. It's been great having you on the program, and that you're making regular appearances wonderful. And that's Sheila Weber of National Marriage Week. And these events are going to be held all over the country. And at least by next week, we'll have up our specific part of that whole thing with the Valentine's Day dance, even with courtship. Sheila, we want to, as we close, we want to say we're also going to put a little bit of a Katie Elder part in it, in that in the Washington, D.C. area, we have a lot of women who are single here, and the marriage rate in the black community is about 40% of African American women, it looks like the projections say, will not be married because of the cultural disintegration of the institution. And so this also ties into how to court. It's going to be a great opportunity for us to impact the nation. So thank you very much for your participation today on the Harry Jackson Show, Sheila Weber.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Folks, I want to remind you that Born for More is on sale. It's an ebook. You can get it at Amazon or Kindle, any of those things, this week for $1.99, this week only. Other books are available there as well. Look for You're Born for More by yours truly, Harry Jackson. We'll be right back after this
You're
break.
listening to the Ankerberg Minute with apologist and television host, Dr. John Ankerberg.
Do you think our good works contribute toward our salvation? Well, not according to the Bible. Ephesians 2:8-9 tells us salvation is apart from works, so no one can boast. In a television interview with Randy Alcorn, he told me,
if it's Jesus plus something, then that something becomes dependent upon us. It's how hard we work to do this. Jesus plus. And God says, no, forget the plus part. It's Jesus alone. Because we could take credit if it was Jesus plus anything else.
your salvation and mine is provided the moment we put our trust in Jesus and Jesus alone.
For additional resources or to view our TV program, log on to jashow.org.
Just as it calls men to be leaders, the Bible calls women to put their homes and families first, even if it requires sacrifice. Dr. Tony Evans explains why as he brings us the alternative view.
If you had to stop working tomorrow, could your husband maintain paying the bills? If he can't pay the bills, if you were to stop working, then a lifestyle adjustment has to be made. That's what it boils down to, for the sake of the children, particularly if they're small. And then once they hit school, then, you can make some adjustments depending on the situation where, she can be home at 3 when they get home, or, you make the adjustments. Those early years are the most foundational years in a child's life. You set the template in those early years. And if nobody's there but the daycare center, got to have child care. You got single parents, they don't have a choice, and they have to work, generally speaking. But the principle is, if everybody else is raising your child, then don't be surprised that they looking and living like everybody else. Don't be surprised at that. And even if you are home, you can't be looking at soap operas all day. You're supposed to be informing them and reading to them and influencing them and challenging them and correcting them. Guess what? She wasn't built to take care of the home, to work full-time, overtime. She wasn't meant to have it all. Not when she has kids. Kids were to take priority.
For an upbeat look at what it means to be a biblical wife and mother, get a copy of the book Dr. Evans wrote along with his daughter, Crystal, Kingdom Woman. It's an encouraging combination of bottom-line biblical truth and the practical perspective of a busy mom. Details on Kingdom Woman are waiting for you online at tonyevans.org. You've been listening to The Alternative View.
Welcome back to the Harry Jackson Show. We're here on Faith and Family Friday, and we just finished talking to Sheila Weber, the executive director of the National Marriage Week. It's coming up here in February during Valentine's Week, 7 to 14.
Yay!
And we know that it can be an exciting time for those who are married or those who are looking for love, hopefully in all the right places. And we have a dance coming up, a dance and a love and friendship, fellowship time, relationship time here for Hope Christian Church with all the ICE churches. And so we'll invite you to that. You'll look on our webpage regarding that. But Amos 3:3 says, how can two walk together unless they be in agreement? And so we reference the fact we have to be educated. How can you walk together in agreement unless you know how to fight fair? Because, life doesn't always come at you fair. And so you have to be trained how to deal with conflict resolution, how to raise children, how to pray together, how to deal with forgiveness. These are all the areas that we as the church are responsible to train and teach individuals how to have families, and God's blessing is upon the marriage, upon the family. As Sheila pointed out, poverty is, in a sense, the scourge or the curse that comes from those who divorce, who break up, and go through unnecessary areas of their life where they don't know how to fight fair, where they don't know how to be in relationship. And so we pay a penalty, and it hurts everyone if we're not trained how to walk together in agreement, Bishop.
Well, it is very much a big problem. I think that at the heart of our culture today, as we look at the minority communities and the mainstream communities, in a strange reversal of circumstance, over the last couple of decades, we have found that the majority community imitates the dress of the least of these. So you got a hip hop generation, you've got a thugged out looking generation, that the ghetto is starting to regulate the styles, the music, and everything. And then the timber of the relationships in the ghetto and urban areas is, in fact, invading every other area. So as I look at an Ebony magazine at times, or I look at some of these Jet magazines, you know, when I was growing up, my mom and dad used to say, don't read Jet. Why? Because the centerfold was, in their opinion, soft pornography for a little 8, 9, 10, 12-year-old kid. And if you'll look now at some of the articles that are in some of these magazines, the fashion, the focus, and the cultural bias is not really toward stability, family, marriage. That's given lip service. But what is really looked at is an incendiary, bling-oriented, flashy-oriented, who can be the hottest kind of competition. And it gives a value to what I'm going to call an irresponsible lifestyle, and as though the stereotypic image of Hollywood with multiple marriages, multiple divorces, multiple trauma is, in fact, the way to go. And we know that that is not the way to go at all.
We lean towards our own self-interest, our own self-desires, and as a result, we're afraid to make commitments to one other individual for a lifetime because we tend to say, okay, it didn't work for our parents, so let's just go out, eat, drink, and be merry. If we have a child out of wedlock, which is a great problem in American society today, at least 40% of the babies currently born are out of wedlock, then we simply we'll just deal with it. But let's go pursue our own self-interest, and that's something the church has got to recorrect today.
Well, Sheila Weber was saying that only 53% or 53% of the babies were born. Right now, new babies are going to be born out of wedlock. If that's a national number, because remember, the African American community has been in the 70 to 80%. 70 to 80%.
Yes.
4 out of 5 of the babies, or 3 out of 4. What in the world are we doing, folks? And those are ones who escape the abortionist, killing and all of the stories that we heard about coming out of Philadelphia just last year or so, and these in urban clinics. So 5% out of wedlock births in 1962 to us going to there. So you're right. This is a very big problem. I want to team that up with the fact that as you're moving away from biblical foundations, and we're in this moral freefall, first in thought, belief, and practice. Thought, belief, and practice. So the practice in marriage and family is really at the bottom of the pit. But we have something that was printed January 6, 2014. A group unveils plans for a Satan statue in Oklahoma, at the Oklahoma Capitol. Can you believe it? I read and I quote, interestingly from this article, Oklahoma City - a satanic group unveiled designs Monday for a 7-foot-tall statue of Satan. It wants to put it at the Oklahoma State Capitol, where a 10 Commandments monument was placed in 2012. In other words, we want equal time, and we're Satanists. The New York-based, that's interesting because they want to invade Oklahoma, the New York-based Satanic Temple formally submitted its application to a panel that oversees the Capitol grounds, including an artist's renderings that depicts Satan as Baphomet, a goat-headed figure with horns, with wings, and a long beard that is often used as a symbol of the occult. In the rendering, Satan is sitting in a pentagram-adorned throne with, listen to this, David Perlett, smiling children next to him. I wish everybody could see it, but you can see this. Yeah. So here is Satan, who I'm going to unaffectionately call Dude. And so Dude is sitting there with a head like a goat, with these crazy-looking wings, and he has got horns and everything else, and he's calmly talking to our children. If that isn't in some ways prophetic, and it is the desire of demons, if you will. But
it reminds me of growing up with Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones. They had an album called Goat Head Soup, and it looked kind of like this with the goat head.
Goat Head Soup. I never heard that album.
Yeah, it was one of the Rolling Stones, and they had this head of a goat, but here this is a 7-foot statue with, and of course he's got almost like a peace sign here. The goat's making with his horns, and the children are smiling. As if we're looking to Satan to give us anything that we want, almost like this is a warped sense of Santa Claus here.
Well, I think that is probably where we're going. These guys are trying to promote in a pluralistic society what they think are the best things for the rest of the culture. And what is funny is that you say that these guys, Rolling Stone, put out a song called Goat Head Soup.
Goat Head Soup, yeah.
And, they on a totally different album, they've got a song, Sympathy for the Devil. Mm-hmm. And that is an amazing song. It's song number 7 on this thing is Prodigal Son, Stray Cat Blues, and Salt of the Earth. Does anybody other than me hear that there is some kind of twist on biblical themes that is running through this Rolling Stones thing? And so we've got folk who are trying to advocate for the devil. Listen to the words of Sympathy for the Devil. It says, please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I've been around for a long, long year, stole many a man's soul and faith. And I was round when Jesus Christ had his moment of doubt and pain, made bleep sure that Pilate washed his hands and sealed his face. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guess my name. But what's puzzling you is the nature of my game. I stuck around St. Petersburg when I saw it was time for a change, killed the Tsar and his ministers. Anastasia screamed in vain. I rode a tank, held a general's rank when the blitzkrieg raged and the bodies stank. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guess my name. Oh, yeah. All what's puzzling you is the nature of my game. Oh, yes. I watched with glee while your kings and queens fought for 10 decades. For the gods they made, I shouted out, who killed the Kennedys? When after all, it was you and me. let me please introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste, and I lay traps for troubadours who get killed before they reach Bombay. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guess my name, oh yeah. But what's puzzling you is the nature of my game, oh yeah. Get. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guess my name. What's confusing you is just the nature of my game. Just as every cop is a criminal and all the sinners saints, as heads as tails, just call me Lucifer, 'cause I'm in need of some resistance. So if you meet me, have some courtesy, have some sympathy, and some taste. Use all your well-learned polities, or I'll lay your soul to waste. Yeah, pleased to meet you. Hope you guessed my name. And the rest of the song basically has ooh, ooh, yay, yay, baby, ooh, ooh. Not exactly articulate from that point on.
But it sounds like he really knew Lucifer himself. Sounds like he spent a little time with the devil himself.
Well, it sounds like Mick is certainly advocating for the devil. And there was a movie on some years ago that starred Denzel, and he was a policeman. And in that particular movie, he was trying to find out who had killed folks and where their murder, et cetera, came from. And Denzel's character found out that there's a symbol of an ancient demonic spirit that was, in fact, associated with these murders. And so the character goes on, tries his best to fight and do what he can to make a difference. And at the end of the movie, Denzel, as you might want to or might imagine, is definitely destroyed by the devil, and the movie goes off the air with a rendition of Sympathy for the Devil, which is a song that we just read you the words of. So what say you about that particular kind of approach?
Yeah, it's part of the culture. It's part of the days of deception. Satan is being promoted, and if you talk about Jesus, you're being ridiculed. So we understand it's not strange to us who know that it's time for Jesus to come back. It's time for Jesus to return, but he's trying desperately to reach the hearts of men and women and turn them back to forgiveness and love for the Lord. But Satan's doing his best to try to deceive us.
I think you're absolutely right. And I believe that there is a need for us on Faith and Family Friday to have faith and invest in our families. If you don't do anything else this weekend, make it a point to go back to church, be in service somewhere, and we'll talk to you again on the Harry Jackson Show. Remember, Born for More as well. Ebook sale, Amazon. Get it, $1.99. See you next week.